Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris and welcome to another 2023 LEGO Ninjago review. Today we'll be taking a look at Kai's Mech Rider EVO set. This is a mech driving a massive oversized motorcycle, which is a really fun and wacky concept for a LEGO set. It almost didn't get made because they considered it too goofy for the main TV show, but now when Core came out, they figured it was the perfect time to introduce a set like this. Now, the thing is, we actually already have gotten a mech for Kai in the Core fashion. You can see it right up there. That is specifically Kai's Core themed mech, which came in the Dojo, Temple, Monastery type set that we got last year in January of 2022. So it was a little strange already getting another mech in the Core style for Kai, although thankfully this kind of looks like Samurai X more for the color scheme, and the set does come with Nia, so if you want to treat it like a Samurai X mech, you easily can. Now, I've actually already published reviews for every single one of the Core sets for January 2023 LEGO Ninjago. If you do want to check out my mega review of all the sets that you can see right here, I have it linked in the description below. But if you just want to check out Kai's Mech Rider EVO, then you're in the right place. Let's jump right in to the review. Okay, so here we have 71783. This is Kai's Mech Rider EVO, retailing for $45 US or 45 euros. This comes with 312 pieces, having a 14.4 cent price per part ratio. However, some of those parts are very large sword blades and large tires, so it's not quite the same comparison. It comes with 4 minifigures, 2 of which we have seen before in Kai and Nia, returning from the January 2022 Core wave, and featuring for the first time some new villains in the form of the Bone King and one of his minions. Although the focus for this review will of course be on the set itself. Setting aside the minifigures to talk about later, let's take a look at exactly how this set works. So this is actually the second LEGO mech driving an oversized large bike set that LEGO is releasing in 2023. The first one is the Ghost Rider mech and bike, which is kind of funny how they're doing 2 of the very similar concept of sets. You can see the Ghost Rider one right here. They're even using the same style of build for the mech and the same figure pieces, but this one was $35, only comes with the 1 figure and the bike is a little bit smaller. But I think it's funny how they're doing the same concept for 2 different sets this year. Now, specifically the way that this works is that you have the standard Core mech for Kai, which is a separatable mech from the bike itself, and then you have the mech actually driving this massive bike. Now, one fun fact about this was that the LEGO designer for the set specifically stated that they always wanted to have a mech driving a bike model in the Ninjago theme, but every time it was pitched it was considered too goofy for the TV show, so they had to wait until the Core wave to actually include it because that was where the concept could maybe fit. I don't know, the TV show has a lot of pretty goofy vehicles, I guess, where they draw the line at mech driving a motorcycle, but they don't draw the line on 1,000 other goofy things that they included in terms of builds. But I guess it's just nice that we were able to get this. I think this makes perfect sense for Ninjago, and honestly, my only complaint with the subject matter of the set is that, well, last year in 2022, we just got a Kai Core mech. Given that the rest of this wave has been doing a really good job of giving us other ninja dragons for the sets that we didn't get last year, I felt it was strange to already get a double up in terms of a Core mech, especially when we do not yet have mechs for Cole, Nia, or Jay. We only have them for Zane in a $10 set, Lloyd in a $20 battle pack this year, and now Kai, although Kai did already get one in the Monastery as well from the Dojo training last year, so this is our second Core mech for Kai. Now, the good thing about this is, if you remove the Kai figure, a lot of viewers have said that you can very easily just see this as a Samurai X mech. And the more I look at it, yeah, I think I really see that. You've got the same exact color scheme, and there's enough black and samurai-like armor plating that honestly makes me believe that maybe initially this was designed as a samurai mech set, but they decided to market it around Kai because Kai sells better than Nia. That is the unfortunate truth, and maybe that could have been what happened. It's kind of another victim of the Kai overpowering the Ninjago builds because he sells really, really well, because kids like the color red. Honestly though, I think that this mech does act totally okay for a Samurai X mech and does make me feel a lot better about the set itself. Now, looking at the mech build, I actually do like how you do have these extra armor pieces mounted at an angle to just make it stand out a little bit more silhouette-wise from the other Core sets. It's cool to get these armor pads being introduced for a Core mech like this. I also really love the new finger attachment piece. This is brand new for 2023. It is a new piece being used for fingers. I believe Monkey Kid also also uses it as kind of detail orients on a building, so cool to see that being used in different ways already, but these are basically just used for fingers here. The set is also using a brand new blade element for 2023 Ninjago. It is recolored in transparent blue for Zane's Ice Dragon, but it's predominantly just used in gold for the sets it appears in. And the mech also has a bit of a jetpack, so I guess they had some extra piece budget to include a jetpack on the back of a mech, which I do really like. It does again make it feel more unique compared to some of the other core mechs, and you do have a specially printed banner to use for the collectability aspect. Now onto the bike itself. With the mech removed, the bike is very, very simple in terms of the build for the most part. You've got some nice studs on the side detailing here, but it really is just a very standard up and down style of build. One thing I do really like is the engine detail here, because it specifically is tying to the other Kai-oriented vehicle in the wave, which was his car. You may notice that they actually use the same click hinge pieces as engines, so I think that is a really cool visual similarity here, and these two vehicles just look really good together in terms of the color scheme and the shaping of them being very, very similar, so I do appreciate how it kind of does tie into the detailing being used on previous sets of the wave itself. Now, for the rest of the bike, the EVO function is very, very, very simple. Really, all you do for EVO is you specifically attach the flame exhaust pieces. So to power it up for the EVO form, you stick these onto here. You also just stick the blades on the front. So these are already there, but you just kind of stick the blades onto the front there. And I think that's it. I mean, there's not much that you can actually do to modify the bike itself. The EVO does really feel like kind of an afterthought for this particular set, but that's not a bad thing because it definitely does feel like all the parts that you're using to build the set are going into just making it feel more substantial. My one complaint with the mech is that unfortunately the limbs for the hands are not mounted on their own mixel joints. I guess you don't really need it for it to be driving the bike here, but I would have appreciated having specially mounted mixel joint limbs to be able to change the sword angle and degree of positioning, but I also feel that maybe this was probably just a little bit too flimsy to be mounted on a single mixel joint for the hand there, which is why they limited it for this hand, but it would have been nice to have just a little bit more articulation in the hands, kind of like what we got for the Lloyd's mech in the core form, which also did have the very similar build, but did have articulation at the ends of the hands themselves to just have that extra added bit of posability. Now, moving on to the overall value of the build itself, this set costs $45, and I know a lot of people were complaining about the price when images of the set first released, and people were wondering why it costs so much, and honestly, I definitely feel like it is a little bit overpriced. Let's count the EVO mech as $10, maybe even $12 because it has more than the standard EVO mech in terms of these side armors, and you've got the jetpack on the back and the big sword, so $10 to $12. The figures, there are 4 figures, 2 of them are the same, and they're not collectible minifigure styled, they're kind of just standard figures, so if we count the figures separately as like $3 a figure, maybe even $4, but let's say $4 a figure, giving it to LEGO, that's $12 here, $12 here. Let's say $25 for the mech and figures. Is this worth $20 on its own for the large bike? When you look at it that way, I guess it's worth $45, but I don't know, I'm just really not feeling it in terms of the quantity of stuff here, especially when you consider I feel like by itself, like maybe the bike, let's say 18 to 20, the mech 10, that's only like 35, 38 at most. I think 40 would have been very, very fair for me for this style of build. 45 just feels like it's pushing it a little bit much, but again, your mileage may vary, and it definitely does depend on how you feel about the set itself, whether or not you like the concept of it, or feel like you probably could have done with maybe a smaller set. Again, LEGO has demonstrated that they can do this same exact set for $10 cheaper. This is $35, and I would have been totally fine having a Ninjago set of this particular scale, having a core mech riding a bike like this for $35. This is sure a little bit larger, but it doesn't feel $10 larger, and that is where my main complaint with the set lies. Overall, though, I think it's good to get a variety of different minifigures here. It's cool to get the quote-unquote main antagonist of this core wave in one of the smaller sets of the wave, or I guess this is arguably one of the smaller sized ones to include a main villain character. Typically, they lock main villains behind like the most expensive sets, so compared to other Ninjago stuff, he is in a relatively cheaper set. And overall, it is a very, very fun concept for a LEGO build, and I love the idea of a mech driving a motorcycle. It's just such a fun concept that really only works for stuff like Ninjago. It's just a shame that the price just feels a little bit high for what you get, and especially compared to a lot of the other entries in this year's Ninjago listings, which are very well priced, this just feels maybe a little bit overpriced to me. The main ninja figures featured in the set are Kai and Nia, which makes sense because they are siblings. Nia has her full armor piece and Kai does not, simply because he will not fit in his mech with the armor piece on, which is a shame, but understandable. These are the same suits as January 2022's Core Wave, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, I did a mega review around this time last year on those sets when they first came out. I do like how LEGO is reusing these suits for this wave because it means we have a lot more budget to be spent on next summer's wave, which is introducing a brand new series. The much more interesting figures to me are the Bone villains here. Specifically, this is the Bone King, and he does appear in 2 other sets of the wave, which is good to get kind of the quote-unquote main villain here. Would have been nice to see him use the specialized new mold for the jaw element for the villain piece here, but I guess it works fine just on its own like this. I do appreciate the weapons pack being introduced. This is specifically the weapons pack that you get for all of the different Ninjago core sets that have these weapons, and they basically feature a set of different bone-like weapons. You've got 2 swords, 2 sides, 4 shurikens, and 2 sais, so you've got a whole different variety of types of weapons here to play around with, which I really appreciate how they managed to include a ton of these different packs in the different sets. The Bone King here just simply uses a sword, which makes total sense for the main villain to use, and he has a silver-colored face instead of the standard pale green kind of face here. This one here is a Bone Hunter, and he uses a scythe and a sai. I believe other images from the set show him using a sword as well. He is reusing the kind of red stone warrior hat or Ninjago movie civilian hat, but he is using this brand new mold, which is a specialized jaw element, which is very cool to see. They actually included another copy of these as a spare in every single set it was appearing in, so that is very cool because you can use it for your custom minifigures. And specifically, this Hunter has a different style of torso compared to other figures we've gotten from these sets. For example, if we take a look at a figure from another set here, this is the Bone, I believe, Warrior or Bone Guard, I think is what he's called. He has just a slightly different torso, so I do appreciate that we are getting a bit of variety in the villains in terms of the style of print. You can see a rib cage underneath the chains there, and these are just such cool enemies to get, kind of a mix between the Skulkin and the Ghosts, which I think are very interesting to see in general, and certainly more interesting than the other core snakes that we got last year. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our review of Kai's Mech Rider EVO. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of the set? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think the model is good value? Or do you think it maybe should be a little bit cheaper like I thought? Regardless, I think it was a really fun set and a concept for a LEGO build, and it's cool that LEGO is actually putting out 2 sets with a very similar concept this year, that one in the Ghost Rider bag, because I think it's just a fun concept to have a mech driving a large-scale motorcycle. But that's all I have to say about the set. Thank you all so much for tuning into Duck Breaks. Like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming away very soon, and bye for now.